morning, everybody. So if you're feeling moved, please stand up and sing along. I've got love, I've got peace, I've got joy flowing like a river. I've got love, I've got peace, I've got joy flowing like a river. One heart, one mind, one love flowing like a river. I've got hope, I've got strength, I've got faith to move every mountain. I've got hope, I've got strength, I've got faith to move every mountain. One heart, one mind, one love, move every mountain. I've got you, I've got me, I've got us coming together. I've got you, I've got me, I've got us coming together. One heart, one mind, one love, coming together. Yeah, we're coming together.
We're coming together.
We're coming together.
We're coming together.
Yeah, we're coming together.
We're coming together.
One heart, one mind, one love, coming together. I've got you,
I've got
me,
I've
got us coming together. I've got you,
I've got
me,
I've got
us coming together. One heart, one mind, one love, coming together. Thanks, everyone.
A rousing good beginning. A rousing good beginning. Hey, for all of you, there's been a change in the regulation again. Most of you probably got this on your email, but we have to wear masks while you're watching the service. You have to have your masks on. I'm also here to remind you that Unity is involved in what you might call experiential truth. So if we put into practice the things that we are sharing, then we have a direct relationship with the truth, which is that the kingdom of heaven is actually the consciousness of heaven that is in the very midst of us. And we awaken to that, and then life becomes truly worth living. I have some announcements to make for Unity. Can we have that slide up here? I don't have them memorized. Do we have a slide for the announcements? Is this it? Okay. Yes, after careful consideration, it came to our attention that the ventilation system isn't up to allowing us to have our masks off, so now you have your mask on. Spirit Nia classes are ongoing with Rebecca Hartman, Tuesday and Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And that costs $13 drop-in, $10 for a senior. That's if, I don't know, if you're over, 65, I guess. It's a senior price of $10. Invite your friends to a safe, fun time Sunday mornings. Drop off your kids at 10:45 a.m. and pick them up at noon for an hour filled with singing, games, and crafts. All ages are welcome. The fall equinox is coming up Tuesday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. Let's honor and welcome in the changing season together. That's always a very brilliantly, beautifully orchestrated service. It says to bring your drum, get involved. There'll be some circular dancing and some insights shared by our own Equinox leader, our one Equinox leader who's amazing. Norma will be leading that on the 22nd. So think about showing up for that. You're really going to enjoy it. Check out our complete calendar at unityofboulder.com so you can find out everything that's taking place there. And I have something to share with you that I think will make an impression on you, especially you women. This gal was sitting at her dressing table, putting cold cream all over her face, and her 6-year-old daughter was standing by watching this, and she said, "Why are you putting all that all over your face?" She says, "It makes me beautiful." Well, the girl is still standing around, and the mother wipes it off with tissues. They're both looking in the mirror, and the girl says, "It didn't work, did it?" All right, get ready. Shad.
good morning. Let's take a moment now for prayer. So I encourage you to just take a moment and relax and breathe and become present to this moment. Today, let us remember and call upon a higher power. In prayer, we can do this by allowing space to upswell into our lives, into our hearts, and into our minds. So let's do that now. Just imagine from the core of your being an upswelling of spirit. Drop into your center and feel that flow from the core of your being. Thank you, Spirit, for the ability to let go of our limited perception, our limited control, and access a higher order, a higher love, and a higher light. We see this. We see the amazing expression of this higher love coming forth in every cell of our body, in every aspect of our lives, in every place in the world. As spiritual beings, we can make a difference by seeing this higher love expressing in every cell of our body. Every situation in our lives, in every place in the world. It is in spirit that we can rest, we can receive, and we can express. Let us all remember that in every situation, we can allow, expect, and affirm the upswelling of spirit. Thank you, God, for these and all your infinite blessings. And to this we say, Amen.
Thank you, Steve. All right. Well, interesting enough, I was running video for the first service, for Jack's service, so I got to watch that whole thing. And he basically gave a much better version of the talk I'm about to give. So if you want to hear this talk but better, I'd say go ahead and tune into that one. Even if you're online right now, you could just go and tune into that one right now. You'll hear a much better version than the one I'm about to give. But it just shows that we're all sort of in tune into the same things that are flowing throughout the universe and in our lives today. All right. Well, I want to welcome everyone. I appreciate you all being here in person. I appreciate everyone who's joining us online. I know you could be doing a lot of things today, just like myself. The last few days I was at Winter Park mountain biking, which was absolutely phenomenal experience, and I am sore as you can imagine. So anyway, if I look a little rigid, that's because that. Well, let's get a quote going here from Marianne Williamson. She said, "The spiritual path is simply the journey of living our lives. Everyone is on a spiritual path. Most people just don't know it." Believe it or not, everyone is on a spiritual path, whether they know it or not. I think a lot of us forget that fact in our own lives, and we forget that about the people we're looking at living the lives around us in our communities and in the media and in politics, that everyone is on a spiritual path, whether they know it or not. We don't get to opt out of our path. We don't get to opt out of our growth in life's process. We can possibly delay it. We can try to ignore it. We can turn away from it for periods of time, but it will always be there, and it never goes away. Our ignorance to our own path, our hiding from our own path, does not make it go away. In fact, it only makes it more of a struggle for us, which I will sort of let that concept unfold throughout the rest of this talk. So the topic for this talk came to mind last week when we were doing the ministers panel, and we had a question posed to us that basically said, in Unity we teach meditation, constantly reaffirming that we need to meditate, we need to meditate, we need to meditate. So why then do so few Unity people actually meditate, was the question that was posed to us. And this really addresses a much larger question, which is this: why isn't everyone actively involved in a spiritual practice? Why are we not all actively working on our own spiritual growth? The answer to questions like this are actually quite fundamental and easy to answer. We don't really see the point to it. We don't really see the point to it. Even for those people that have no access to spiritual concepts, books, teachers, classes, seminars, they see no point to it. And even those of us sitting in this room today see very little point to it. We see enough that we've shown up here to hear this message, but we don't see much of a point to it to go much further beyond that, which really drops into a chicken or the egg scenario. Meditation and spiritual practice become part of one's life when their consciousness is at a place that it recognizes the necessity of it. So how do we get our consciousness to that place? Well, with meditation and spiritual practice. Using a spiritual tool brings you to a place of recognizing the value of that spiritual tool. But honestly speaking, why would you bother with a dedicated spiritual practice if your life is already going pretty darn good? Which is a thought that was best shared with me with a young priest I met last year. And we were discussing our various ministries, where I was, where he was, what he's doing, what he's focusing on. And then he referred to this, the curse of affluence. He basically said, affluent people have a much harder time seeing a reason to seek God. In his perspective, this is because affluent lives are distracted with easy access to short-term gratification. He went on to tell me that he seeks out working with the poor and impoverished people because they are less buffered by their financial situation. They much more readily and easily see God as an obvious necessity in their life. But the affluent don't see God as a necessity because we are so cushioned by our distractions. Distractions which we can increasingly afford more of. Our distractions are only becoming more affordable in our digital age. Shipping's quicker, shipping's less expensive. It's all right here. Therefore, since that's the scenario, we also don't see meditation or spiritual growth as a necessity in our lives, which should bring us some clarity to this quote from Christ, the master teacher, when he said, "Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God." Of course, there is not an issue with having money itself. The issue is the distraction that money brings into our lives. A mindset looking to accumulate more distractions, accumulate more money. But Marianne Williamson reminds us that everyone is on a spiritual path. The affluent, the poor, the smart, the ignorant, the wise, the distracted, all of us are on a spiritual path. So how is it then that some of us don't know it or even recognize it? They don't even see the importance of it or the value of it whatsoever in their lives. How can we be on a path and not even see it? Not actively working on it, not actively even caring about it, not even actively knowing it exists whatsoever. Well, actually, this question is also not so complicated to answer. We don't see it because the path is really, really long. With our short-sighted way of looking at the world around us and our very limited understanding of time as it unfolds, many things become imperceptible or invisible to us in the human condition. The rishis of ancient India said that a normal person living an average life with no conscious effort towards spiritual growth throughout that life, no conscious effort towards spiritual awakening, will eventually get there anyway in 1 million lifetimes. And that was no joke. They did a lot of spiritual work. They studied the average person just stumbling through life's roadblocks as they went along, and they calculated it out through their own spiritual work to see how long they had gone. It would take 1 million lifetimes of just average living to finally reach self-realization. Everyone is on a path. Everyone will get to the end, and everyone has to get there, because that is our calling. There is no other greater calling. We don't get to avoid that calling. When people say, what is the meaning of life? I want to fall asleep, because that's the most boring question that was ever asked in humanity. It is to return to God. If you've ever been wondering what it is, that is it. So go ahead and do a tweet or something, let everyone know, so we can stop asking that boring question. But it is just a matter of how long it's going to take, based on the individual's conscious effort towards growth. No conscious effort, and it will take about 1 million lifetimes. That's a lot of lifetimes. And a lot of minions, by the way. Because if you think about it, that is how long it will take life to just keep throwing stuff at us until we slowly but surely start to catch on to the fact that life is consciously throwing stuff at us to learn from, grow from, and eventually transcend entirely. But because the lessons are spread so far apart and come at us from seemingly random directions, we don't recognize the intelligence behind all of it. It's completely lost on us. Things that are subtle and take a long time are basically invisible to us. And things that are obvious and quick grab our attention. Winning the lottery grabs our attention. Instantaneous wealth grabs our attention. The benefit of multiple lifetimes of spiritual practice does not quite grab our attention. We don't go, oh yeah, I'm on board for that. That could take many lifetimes. I'm in. Let's do this. Take this article, for example. From the Smithsonian, it says, do trees talk to each other? A controversial German forester says yes, and his ideas are shaking up the scientific world. He said, wise old mother trees feed their saplings with liquid sugar and warn the neighbors when danger approaches.
Reckless youngsters take foolhardy risks with leaf shedding, light chasing, and excessive drinking, and usually pay with their lives. Crown princes wait for the old monarchs to fall so they can take their place in the full glory of sunlight. It's all happening in the ultra slow motion that is tree time, so that what we see is a freeze frame of the action. Trees have always been communicating with each other in these complicated networks of socialization since the beginning of time. But they move so slow that it was just too subtle for us to even recognize until just a few years ago. Thousands and thousands of years we've been on this planet, and only just a few years ago did someone say, wait a minute, these trees are talking constantly. There's a whole community working together when a fire comes to warn each other and to do things about it. And when a beetle comes, they're warning neighboring communities on the other side of states. There's this network of communication happening around the world, except that we were so ignorant in how we looked at life and just looking at it as a slice that we were missing it because it moves so slow and imperceptible to our fast-paced world. Just as the divine intelligence of life moves in such a subtle way that it may take us 1,000,000 lifetimes to fully pick up on how amazing and complicated it is. But what if I want to slow down enough to see and experience the divine currently at work? What if I want to shave off some of those 1,000,000 lifetimes and reunite with the divine maybe a bit sooner? Well, everyone is on a path, but not everyone is consciously advancing on their path, because we are presented with options. Vacation, hobby, family, politics, transportation, how do I get to and from work, house, relationship, work itself, money, health. We can call all these things distractions on the path. Or we could call them opportunities on the path, all depending on the consciousness we approach them with. When we are unaware of our path and wrapped up in the limited ego's desires, which is strictly believes in a physical world of physical things that we have to manage and try to get as much of, then these are distractions. Distractions in that they are not meeting our expectations of how life should go, and the negativity that surrounds them consumes our time and energy. Or distractions in that we are focused on finding little tidbits of joy in each and every one of them. But only tidbits, because joy in these areas is fleeting, unstable, and short-lived, unlike the infinite, unwavering joy of God that sits at the end of this seemingly really long path. So no matter how we slice it, solely focusing on these things, these physical areas of our lives, is a distraction. A distraction from where life is trying to lead us towards spiritual awakening. Life is trying to lead us home, back to spirit, back to God, back to the awareness and realization that we are one with the divine, an expression of the divine in the physical experience. But our distractions keep us from seeing this path, because our distractions are, well, they are frankly distracting. And the concept of spiritual awakening seems so far off, so distant from where we are right now. In our little world of physical things buzzing around, this idea of spiritual awakening just seems infinitely far away. It seems to us basically unattainable and pointless to even attempt. Whereas all the distractions of physical life are right there around us, within arm's reach, with their allure of quick bursts of gratification, so much closer than the seemingly unattainable spiritual awareness that sits so far off. So of course we will go after what is closer and quicker, because after all, that is what grabs our attention. But here is what we seem to fail to realize. As we begin down the path consciously, because we're all on the path, remember we already established that, but as we begin down the path consciously, we don't have to forsake and leave behind these things. I'm sure some people saw this and see, you tell me I'm supposed to leave my family behind and go after a spiritual awakening? No, that is the misnomer. We don't dissipate into a cave on some mountaintop in Tibet. No, that is the misnomer. As we begin down the path, we don't forsake and leave behind or abandon these parts of our lives. We slowly but surely become one with them and reunite all of them with the consciousness of spirit, evolving them into a higher state of oneness, moving them out of the world of distraction into an alignment with the flow of God in our lives, which is the ultimate bliss, the ultimate joy, the peace that surpasses understanding that the masters all spoke of, which is where we are meant to be and live and exist and have our being in every moment of existence, where we are all currently heading, whether we know it or not. We are all on a path heading home. There is no getting around it. So then we are basically left with really only one question to deal with. How long would you like it to take to get there? We've all got to get there. We've all got to choose how long we'd like it to take. This is entirely up to each and every single one of us. So as you ponder that question, I'd like to go into a moment of meditation. I invite you to get settled into your seat. If you can sit with your back straight, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, rolling your shoulders back, opening your chest, allowing the breath to flow easily. Closing the eyes to close off the distraction of sight, which tells us so much misinformation. Allowing ourselves to drop into that center behind the heart. A point of clarity, which begins to shut off the five senses of the outer world and bring us internal, bringing us inside to a place of quiet. A place where we begin to just touch the tiniest sliver of the peace that awaits an awakened life. A place where we begin to touch just the tiniest sliver of the stillness and calm that awaits us in an awakened life. A contentment that has no desire or need. An understanding of simply this moment that has no concern about the past or the future. Wholeness that sees no flaws in the physical body, in the consciousness, or judges anything around it, but simply is. In the epicenter at the back of this heart, we realize that more of us is there, but yet goes largely ignored for most of our day. That there is this portal ever so small at the current moment, because possibly I haven't been working on it enough, but a portal to the infinite that sits in waiting for the time that I actually slow down enough to say, this matters in my life. More than the distractions I set forth in front of me each morning. This, opening this portal a little bit more each day, matters more to me than the distractions I have piled on myself and called my life. There will be a point in time when we will come to that realization. It's sitting there right now, 12 inches from the brain, behind the heart. Maybe in this moment I decide to increase whatever I call my spiritual practice by just 1%. Maybe that's 1% in time, energy, commitment. I just commit to myself right now that I will increase it a bit. Not so far that it's something unstable I will not be able to continue to do over time, but just enough that I've pushed myself to care a little bit more about it, to give it a little bit more of my attention, my time, my effort. Perhaps I recognize a sense of worry that washes over me and tells me, but you don't have the time. You don't have the energy for that. You have plenty of other things going on. And if it were Jesus in that moment, he'd say, "Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, you negative thinking consciousness which has latched on to my mind and does not belong there. Get behind me, negative, limited ego, which sees only a physical world and has trapped me in it. I am ready to recognize so much bigger than what you are. Get thee behind me. I value my time. I value my energy, and I choose to invest it in what truly matters." As we begin to go forth now from this time of stillness together, we bring our attention back to our breath, the position of our body, the placement in this room, and perhaps the thoughts that we had before. We go forth now with a new sense of clarity and direction, holding on to this peace for the rest of this day and this week. And so it is. Namaste. That was the most disruptive and jarring thing I think I've ever experienced.
Okay. You made a point that I left out of my talk that is absolutely the most valuable. When you said about all the different things that occur as distractions to people that are not on the path actually become spiritualized as they continue on their path, so that you actually can live and be present when you're on vacation and not off distracted someplace else. You can be involved with the family and not off. So the point you made there is so valuable for us, especially in the Western culture. Thank you for making that point. I left it out of my talk.
All right. Thank you.
So I just want to remind you, I'm not someone up here who tells you something I don't do. About every 3 to 6 months, I reevaluate my practice and increase it. And it's taking a lot of time out of my life, I can tell you that much right now. I don't tell people how much time, because that inflates my own ego, and I feel that sense happening inside me when people ask me, how long do you meditate? How long do you do this? And I go, oh, I don't know. I'm taking a lot of time, though. And about every 3 to 6 months, I reevaluate that and I either increase my meditation practice, my yoga practice, or my diet strictness. Okay, an insanely strict diet, and I'm driving people around me crazy, but that is part of my practice. I gave up drinking. I gave up a lot of things because I am hyper-focused on my practice. It's very important to me. So I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to say it's possible, and I enjoy it. And I enjoy it more and more, and I see the benefits of it as I increase. I don't increase just to do it as a game. I increase because I know I'm going to see more benefits on the back end of it. And it's exciting. And in that way, it is sort of a game. I get to increase. I get to see how the world unfolds around me, and it's a beautiful thing. So I invite you to try that in your own lives. All right. That is the truth as I experience it. We're going to take an offering for Unity now. Thank you. So I'd like to remind you here at Unity, when we make an offering, this is not just to support a building, to support a staff, but it is also to support the kind of world we're trying to build right now. If we want a more spiritual world, we have to invest in spiritual things. Does that make even remote sense to you? If you want more Starbucks in the world, invest more in Starbucks. If you want more brake companies in the world, invest in Meineke. If you want to see more oil happening in the world, then drive your car more. If you want more spirituality in the world, you have to start investing in spirituality, and that's what we're doing right here, right now. We do have many ways to give here at Unity of Boulder. We do take physical donations at the boxes as you're Xing out there, along with the dip jars if you want to hit with a credit card. If you're watching us online, we really invite you to join us in this process because it's not just about giving, it's engaging yourself in the process of giving, which opens up the flow of prosperity in our own lives when we start to break down those barriers of financial fear and lack that most of us have. All right, Todd, you got something for us?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So we're getting set up. Our singer today will be singing with Aaron, Nicole Williams. Nicole's been an active part of the Unity community since her and her family moved to Boulder in January. So they've been attending Sunday school every week, and they all look forward to being here every Sunday. We're excited to have Nicole on stage with us today. She'll be singing, she's been singing since very young age. And hails from a musical family. She has sung for several bands and projects with genres ranging from blues, folk, classic rock, hard rock, and everything in between. She was able to sing in a Houston choir performance and looks forward to the choir getting back up and running. But in the meantime, we're very happy to have her here today. Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. This is a song that I've been singing for probably 20 years to myself. And when I thought about what song to sing with everything going on and all the uncertainty, there was no other song like this one. So hope you enjoy it.
It's called The Wood Song,
Yes.
written by Emily Salyers of Indigo Girls.
Thanks. The thin horizon of a plan is almost clear. My friends and I have had a tough time, bruising our brains, hard up against change. All the old dogs and the magician. Now I see we're in the boat in 2x2s. Only the the heart that we have for a tool we can use. And the very close quarters are hard to get used to. Love weighs the whole down with its weight, but the wood is tired and the wood is old, and we'll make it fine if the weather holds. But if the weather holds, we'll miss the point. That's where I need to go. No way construction of this tricky plan, I know this was built by other than a greater hand, with a love that passes all our understanding, watching closely over the journey. Yeah, but what it takes to cross the great divide seems more than all the courage I can muster up inside. Although we get to have some answers when we reach the other side, the prize is always worth the rocky ride. But the wood is tired and the wood is old, and we'll make it fine if the weather holds. But if the weather holds, we'll miss the point. That's where I need to go. Sometimes I ask to sneak a closer look, skip to the final chapter of the book, and then maybe steer us clear of some of the pain it took to get us where we are this far, this far. But the question drowns in its futility, and even I have got to laugh at me. No one gets to miss the storm of what will be, just holding on for the ride. But the wood is tired and the wood is old, and we'll make it fine when the weather holds. But if the weather holds, we'll miss the point. That's where I need to go. Thank you so much.
All right, before they leave the stage, I wanted to announce that Shad Groverland will be stepping down as our music director, and she's sort of handing the conducting baton over to Todd Bethune, who will be stepping up as our band director. So let's hear it for Todd. Todd actually was the music director at Bay City, Michigan Unity. Am I correct? Yes. So he has experience in this, and he's bringing a lot of new talent and ideas and energy to this, so we're really excited what he has to bring. And going forward, we're going to have him speaking into a microphone. If I have my druthers. It's on your notes. Okay. All right. So I think we're going to sing. What are we going to sing? All right. You can stand up. You can shake in your seat. You can sing along through your mask, because that's enjoyable. And we'll make this happen.
Where's the one-armed lady?
I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only
patio for fellowship if you'd like to join us out there under the sails. And we do have the prayer partners down here in the front wearing their beautiful white stoles. If you're seeking prayer at this time, you can see them, and they'll take you off for a private discussion about that. All right. Have a beautiful week.